Thank you for joining me this afternoon, and I hope it's not going to be too windy out here for this recording. And if it is, I apologize. I hope that we can get this done. But I did want to go back and do some more in-depth study in the book of John, chapter 14, and also we're going to go into a few other scriptures that I want to bring out that Yahuwah just brought back to my attention that would be good to go back through, because there's just and I'm making reference to the teaching that I've done just recently on the rapture of the church and the second coming of the Mashiach. Again, keep in mind that in my past teachings I brought up the fact that these are two separate events; they're not one and the same. And to prove that aspect of it, I want to bring out some things that Yahuwah just brought to my attention again about these verses, especially in the Gospel of John chapter 14. Now keep in mind, this is, as we read, before I read these verses, this is when the Messiah, Yahusha, was about to, this is right before his crucifixion, and he told his disciples, or taught ones, that he was about to depart. And so let's have that as a background here as we read verse 1 here. He says, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in Yahuwah. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." Now, a few things I want to point out about these verses here. The very first words out of his mouth is, "Let not your heart be troubled." Now, this is not just speaking to his apostles or disciples at that time. This is for us as believers today. He's speaking the word prophetically as well to his church. And again, the church is the body of Mashiach. I can't reteach everything that I've taught in the past, so some of you that may have not heard my teaching about what is the church or who is the church, you can go back and research my videos to really get an in-depth study about that aspect. But for those that are listening, I need to sort of just bring out the fact again that the church consists of Jew and Gentile believers who were born again of the Ruach HaKodesh. These are not just the nation, say, of Yasharel. Now, if you're an individual Yahudi, and have believed on the Mashiach, then of course you're part of the church. If you're a Gentile outside the kingdom or outside the nation of Yasharel, if you've believed in the Messiah, in the Mashiach, and you've received him into your heart, you're born again of the Ruach HaKodesh, then you're part of the church as well. Jew and Gentiles make up the church who are born again of the Ruach HaKodesh. And the church actually began in the second chapter of Acts on the day of Shavuot, or Pentecost, when the Ruach was given, and that was when the church began. Now, those that had died before are what I refer to as the saints of the Old Testament, or the Tanakh, and they're a different group of people which have a different destiny or different purpose. Their resurrection will take place at the end of the tribulation, but they're not involved in the rapture of the church, or the catching up of the church, because it is specifically for the bride of Mashiach. Those that have died in him, or those that are alive in him, will be caught up together to meet him in the air, and so shall we ever be with Mashiach. Now, with that foundation laid, let me just go in more in depth here. In verse 2, he said, "In my Father's house are many mansions." He says, if it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. Now, when he says, I go to prepare a place for you, we know that he's talking about to go to be with the Father. In fact, if you skip down to verse 28 of this chapter, he says that, in fact, he says, You have heard how I said unto you, I go away, and come again unto you. If you loved me, you would rejoice, because I said I go unto the Father. So he's saying, this mention of that that he had to go. He's going to be with the Father. And we know what the Father is, of course, is in the heaven. And so he's going to be with him there. In the Shamayim, the Hebrew word for heaven, he's gone to be with the Father. Now, verse 3 says, and if I go, in other words, and if I'm going, which I am going, he says, and prepare a place. I'm going for a purpose, and that purpose is to prepare a place for us. But he says, I will come again. He is coming again. Now, the coming again, I made mention of the fact that the rapture is a different event than the second coming, and they're for two different reasons. The rapture, or the catching up of the church, is the part where he says, I will come again and receive you unto myself. Now, notice the purpose for his coming at the rapture is to catch up those that have died in Mashiach, and then those that are alive on the earth and remain. Now, this is brought out by the Apostle Paul, and or Shaul, and he brought this out in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 through 17. He said, "Behold, that those that have died before us shall be caught up in the air before us, and then we which are alive and remain on the earth shall be caught up together with them to meet Yahusha in the air." Now, I had someone write me and say, well, that's not talking about heaven, that says in the air. Well, again, if you look at the whole picture here, it's talking about meeting him in the air, and for the purpose is that we're going to be with him, as he said right here, I'm going to come and prepare a place for you, and I will come again and receive you unto myself. Now, where is he? He's in the Shamayim, and he's in heaven today. But he's coming back for his bride, for the body of Mashiach, to catch us away, to be with him. And you notice it says, in 1 Thessalonians, Paul brought this out, that, and so shall we ever be with Yahusha. In other words, there'll not be another time when this event happens that we will be separated from him. That's why we have to come back with him. In Revelation chapter 19, as you read this, that the saints will be coming back with Mashiach at his second coming. And of course, his second coming is for a whole different purpose. It's for a whole different event. It's to punish the inhabitants of the earth. It's to rescue Yasharel from the nations that are coming against it. And it's to set up his millennial reign of 1,000 years on the earth. And the scriptures declares that we shall rule and reign with him during that time frame. So, with that said, we'll stop here and we'll pick up on our next session. But I hope this has helped you. Hope this brings comfort to you. In fact, that's what the whole message is all about, is to bring comfort to you. Those that don't believe in a rapture, those that believe that we will go, or the church will go through the tribulation, are in terrible error. And I'm here to tell you that. And it's a shame that people are promoting that kind of theology. It's totally against the scriptures. I really get upset and angry because of that, because I know that Yahusha wants his body, his bride, to be comforted. That's what he says right here. Let not your heart be troubled. He's given us this message or this information so that we would not be troubled, and that we would not have this fear or dread that we're going through this horrible time frame, which is a time of judgment. Even Paul wrote about that in 1 Thessalonians. He said, wherefore comfort yourselves. Comfort yourself with these words. There is no comfort in thinking that you're going to have to go through this 7-year tribulation period, or it's actually referred to as Jacob's trouble, or Jacob's trouble, and it's never intended for us, because when I say we, I'm talking about the body of Mashiach, the church, have not been appointed to Yahuwah's wrath. And this time frame of 7-year tribulation, or Jacob's trouble, is a time of wrath. May these words comfort you. That's what they're intended for. Shalom.